And we are back. Welcome back to the Premier League prediction series. It is time for Game Week 20, the first game week of the second half of the season. A reminder that over the course of next week, I will be doing my mid-season Premier League review, wrapping up where the teams are in respect of where I predict them to be at the halfway mark of the season. And what is also good about it now being Game Week 20 is it is the first of the repeated fixtures that we've already had this season. So we're going to have a look back at the games that have already taken place this season to make a better judgment about how these games are going to go. As always, if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video. If you do enjoy all of my prediction series, and consider subscribing to the channel with notifications turned on, so you don't miss out on any of the predictions we have got coming up for you over the course of the next couple of weeks, including, of course, the League Cup semi-finals and the FA Cup third round matches coming up for you next week. Let's now look ahead to this week's matches, where you can see that we actually had a good week for the first time in a while last weekend. We managed to get 7 out of 10 Premier League correct results, and we even got 1 correct score, even though it was the one I wanted to get wrong. It was Newcastle's 2-0 win over Manchester United. That means we're closing back up to 50% when it comes to Premier League predictions scores, but as you can see, we're still well ahead of 50% when it comes to the overall season results. But that is it for now. Without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Game Week 20 of the Premier League starts with the early kickoff on Saturday, which is, of course, Tottenham taking on Newcastle, where I have to start with Rodrigo Bentancur, who has a 7-match ban, comes back, scores, but then gets booked, which is his 5th yellow card of the season, meaning he is now suspended again for this match. And let me tell you, he is the first of several players that picked up their 5th yellow card at the last possible opportunity to get banned this week. So more on that shortly. Spurs then, of course, went on to blow it against Wolves, meaning they are now winless in their last 3, and they still have multiple defensive injuries. They are 11th in the table, and they're facing a Newcastle side who are now up to 5th in the Premier League table, have 4 wins and 4 clean sheets in a row. They are absolutely flying. However, defender Fabian Schär is suspended. He is another one who's picked up 5 yellow cards. That was literally the last game you could get your 5th yellow card and get suspended, but he's another one that has done it, and that means that Newcastle could be really struggling for centre-back options. Kraft is injured, Lascelles is injured, Botman is rumoured to be possibly back, but he's not played for 10 months, so it'd be a hell of a game to stick him back in. So it'll be very interesting to see what Newcastle do at the back. Newcastle won this fixture 2-1 at St James's Park. And to be honest, even with all of Spurs' injuries, we know they're not going to change their approach, and Newcastle are absolutely flying. I expect Newcastle to win here. However, with that defensive injury at the back for Newcastle, I'm still going to give Spurs a goal. I'm going for a 3-1 victory to Newcastle. On to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and it is 9th versus 19th as Aston Villa take on Leicester. Both of these sides are going to be feeling a little bit disappointed with their recent run of form. Villa drawing late against Brighton after Tariq Lamptey's equaliser, and they will be without both Morgan Rogers and John Duran. John Duran still suspended following the stamp against Newcastle. Morgan Rogers, the 3rd player already today who picked up their 5th yellow card, and he will be missing. For Leicester, though, it's 4 defeats in a row for them. They're still going to be possibly facing a late fitness test over Wilfred Ndidi, who has been such a crucial loss to them over the course of these 4 matches, which has also only seen them score 1 goal in their 4 defeats. So it's not looking good for Ruud van Nistelrooy's side at the moment. So with all of that said, even with Rodgers being unavailable for Aston Villa, I still expect Villa to get the win here. And given the fact that Leicester have been so poor in front of goal, I'm going to give them the clean sheet as well. I'm going for a 2-0 victory to Aston Villa. It'll be interesting to see which player comes into that attacking role. I would imagine it'll be some sort of variation of Barkley or Tielemans, whichever one goes forward and whichever one stays back. We shall see. Second game at 3 o'clock sees Bournemouth taking on Everton. Bournemouth have extended their unbeaten run to 7 matches, which has left them in 7th place. But it was another draw for them, this time against Fulham, which was what, as I predicted. Everton's good run, however, came to an end against Nottingham Forest, also as I predicted. So pretty confident about how I'm sort of feeling around these teams at the moment. But This is another really tough one to call because we know how good Everton are at keeping clean sheets. In terms of injuries and suspensions, Bournemouth are going to be welcoming back Justin Kluivert for this one. They've got no fresh injuries or suspensions. And as always, it's all about the fitness of Dwight McNeil. And it has to be said that Everton are looking a lot less potent without their best player in the side. Armando Broja started for them up front last time and he disappointed, adding to the list of strikers that just don't seem to be able to get it going at Everton at the moment. So for me, I really struggle to see where Everton are going to score against the Bournemouth side that are usually pretty good at home. I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory to Bournemouth. There's definitely remit for another 0-0 here because we know how good Everton can defend. But bizarrely, despite how good Everton have been defensively, and despite how relatively low-scoring Bournemouth have been over the couple of recent matches, this was actually a 3-2 victory to Bournemouth at Goodison Park. Just a real sign of how times have changed for both of these clubs over the last few months. But I'm going for a 1-0 victory to Bournemouth. That then takes us to Crystal Palace taking on Chelsea. And we'll start with the away side because they were second in the Premier League table and it's absolutely gone to pieces for them over the last few weeks. They drew with Everton and then lost 2 matches in a row, which has seen them go from second down to 4th. And they're coming up against the Crystal Palace side that over the last few weeks, I actually think have been doing pretty well. They got an away draw with Bournemouth. They then got the win over Southampton last week. They're up to 15th place in the Premier League table. They're 5 points clear of the relegation zone. They come into this with no injuries and no suspensions. Sorry, no fresh injuries, should I say, and no suspensions. So they're going to be full of confidence coming into this. Gahey's going to be back following his suspension. For Chelsea, yes, they still have some injury concerns, but you know that Chelsea are going to be able to field a fully fit side with how many good players they have. It was a 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge earlier on in the season, but it's just worth noting before I make my prediction that the last 6 Premier League games between these sides of Selhurst Park has been won by Chelsea. So they have very good record when it comes to Crystal Palace away. However, their dip in the last couple of weeks, Palace's rise in the last couple of weeks, and the fact it was a 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge, I'm going for that scoreline again, and I'm going for a 1-1 draw. That then takes us to a revitalised Manchester City, who finally got their first win in ages with that victory over Leicester. And they come up against a side who is massively going to be licking their wounds after West Ham lost 5-0 to Liverpool for the second time this season they've lost by a mark. Well, with Liverpool scoring 5 against West Ham. But more crucially for West Ham than that is that Jarrod Bowen has picked up a foot injury, which will see him miss at least a month. And he is really their only sort of talismanic player in their team. And it's going to be a real struggle, I think, for West Ham over the next few weeks without Jarrod Bowen. Yes, they've got the likes of Kudus and Paqueta and Fulkrug, I'm sure, will come into that starting lineup. But Bowen is the player that kind of pulls things all together. He is the most dangerous player. And I think without him, especially travelling to a City side that are going to have their confidence back, I think that is going to be a massive factor in this match. John Stones could be back for Manchester City as well, although Ruben Diaz will still remain injured. Bizarrely, the last 3 meetings of these sides, including the one earlier on this season, has been a 3-1 victory to Manchester City. So I see no reason not to go for that scoreline once again. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Manchester City. I still think without Bowen, I can see West Ham scoring. I just don't see them having enough to produce a result against the Manchester City team, which will be looking for back-to-back victories. The final 3 o'clock kickoff then is possibly the hardest prediction of the week. It is Southampton taking on Brentford. Statistically, the worst team in the Premier League. Statistically, the worst home team in the Premier League. Against statistically the worst away team in the Premier League. So both sides are going to be looking at this fixture going, this is surely the game where we can get it right, because you're quite literally playing against, respectively, the worst team you can possibly play in this situation, or the best team, depending on which way you want to actually look at it. But I have to look at Southampton and say, yes, under Juric, they do look better, but the results just aren't there. And realistically, they're just not good enough as a Premier League side. They've now lost Mateus Fernandes. He is suspended. 5 yellow cards, as we've said on multiple occasions. But Brentford, of course, are massively depleted themselves. They only have 2 points away from home all season. And It's a tough one to call. I just look at this and go, this could honestly be anything. This is one of them games where if you gave me a scoreline, well, I think it's going to be low scoring, but you can definitely give justification for Southampton winning this. You can definitely give justification for Brentford winning this. And you can definitely give justification for this one being a draw. I just have to look at the quality that's available to me, the form of these two sides, which, as I said, neither of them are on the best run of form at the moment. But I just think Brentford have that little bit of extra quality. And as long as Mbermo and Visser can stay fit up front and they still got some decent midfielders available to them, I think they're going to have too much for a really poor Southampton defensive unit. I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Brentford. But we'll see. If it's going to happen for Southampton, this is the game for it to happen. I just don't think it is going to happen. That then takes us to the final game on Saturday, the late kickoff, which is Brighton and Hove Albion taking on Arsenal. For Brighton, they are now winless in their last 7 matches, but they have had 5 draws in that time, which did include that impressive 2-2 draw away to Aston Villa, as we've already spoken about. For Arsenal, it is now 4 victories in a row, and they have to say that Ethan Nwaneri, we spoke about him in the sort of like pre-season preview, as it were. He looked absolutely class coming into that Bukayo Saka position on the right wing. I'll be interested to see if he continues in that position going into this game. In terms of the head-to-head record, I mean, this is absolutely bizarre. These sides have met 8 times over the course of the last 3 seasons. It's been 3 wins for Arsenal, 3 wins for Brighton, and 2 draws. But 4 of those 6 victories have come for the away side. So it just makes this so tough to call. In terms of those injuries and suspensions, Timber is yet another player suspended for picking up 5 yellow cards. He's going to be missing for Arsenal on top of all their other injuries, the likes of Saka and White, Tomiyasu, etc. For Brighton, again, it looks like they're going to have to do another late fitness test for Danny Welbeck against his former club. However, at the moment, it is looking very likely that Danny Welbeck will miss this game, which means at least there's no fresh injury concerns, but they're not going to be welcoming anyone back for this match. And without him, as we've said, winless in their last 7. So, with that said, I just fancy Arsenal here. I think it's going to be a tight game. It was a 1-1 draw at the Emirates. Let's not forget that, with all of that Declan Rice controversy with Joel Veltman. But I'm going to edge it in favour of Arsenal here. I'm going to go for 2-1. Could see it going the other way, but I just don't think it's going to happen. We shall see. On to Sunday then, and we have 2 games on Sunday. The first of those sees Fulham take on Ipswich. 2 sides that have got the better of Chelsea over the course of the last 2 weeks. So both sides are going to be full of confidence. Fulham are unbeaten in their last 7 and have had 5 draws. Weird how it sort of sounds differently depending on how you look at it. Both Fulham and Brighton have both had 5 draws in their last 7 matches, but Fulham won the other 2, Brighton lost the other 2, and it just weird how the dynamics sort of work in terms of how similar things can be. For Ipswich, they are now 1 point from safety, but they know if they get themselves a victory in this match, they will be outside the relegation zone before Wolves play Forest on Monday night. So it's an opportunity for Ipswich to get a result here. But with the way Fulham are playing at the moment, with essentially no injuries or suspensions for them coming into this match, I still think Fulham have to be considered the favourites here. To be fair, it was a 1-1 draw at Portman Road. That was a good result for Ipswich early on in the season. But back at Craven Cottage, with the form Fulham are in, even with Ipswich playing well over the last couple of weeks, I've got to go for the Londoners here. I'm going for a 3-1 victory to Fulham. Then it's time for the main event as Liverpool take on Manchester United. And as a Manchester United fan, I have to take my biased hat off for the moment and purely look, as Rafa Benitez would say, at the facts. Liverpool are top of the league. They have won 4 in a row. Manchester United are 14th in the league. They have lost 4 in a row. And Liverpool won 3-0 at Old Trafford. Now we'll put the biased hat back on and say, but Konate is still injured for Liverpool. Joe Gomez is now also injured for Liverpool. So they're going to be bringing in Quansah, who struggled against Manchester United when we played them last season. And Bruno is back. And Ugarte is back. And De Ligt's recovered from his illness. And We drew 0-0 at Anfield last year with 10 men after that stupid Michael Oliver, Diogo Dalot double yellow card incident. 4-0 Liverpool. I can't justify it. As much as every part of my being wants to justify some sort of Manchester United result here, I just don't see it happening. And look, people are going to go on about the 7-0, the 7-0. I'll use this as even more reason why Liverpool win this match. When Liverpool beat us 7-0, we were playing well and they weren't playing very well. After the 7-0, we finished higher than Liverpool in the Premier League table. They're now top, playing way better than they were when they beat us 7-0. We're now 14th, playing way worse than when they beat us 7-0. I'm putting 4-0 as a safety blanket because I daren't put more. As a Manchester United fan, my pride won't allow me to put more than 4-0. But honestly, the way we've played the last few weeks, this could be absolutely anything. As always, I am confident and I believe in the players that they can produce something. But, nah. Not the way Liverpool are playing at the moment. Oh, and just one final thing. Michael Oliver is the referee again. So, Dalot, please behave yourself because he's going to be on you after what happened last year. 4-0 Liverpool, but yeah, could be so many more. And then finally, the actual best team in the Premier League at the moment, which is Nottingham Forest, after they have won their last 5 games in a row. They will be travelling to Molineux on the Monday Night Football to face a Wolves side who are 3 games unbeaten under Vitor Pereira with 2 wins and that very impressive away draw at Spurs. It's an interesting one to call this because, yes, Wolves are just above the relegation zone and Nottingham Forest are now up to 3rd, but Wolves have shown real signs of improvement under Vitor Pereira, as we've just mentioned. The big news, of course, is the suspension now of Matheus Cunha, not for 5 yellow cards, for stealing a steward's glasses. He has been given a 2-match ban, which is ridiculous because he only misses this game in the Premier League, and then his other match ban will be the FA Cup tie against, I think it's Bristol City or something next week. So it's really not too much of a loss for Wolves. And let's not forget, Cunha went off injured against Tottenham last week anyway, and they still got back into the game without him. So for those of you that think without Cunha, Wolves are really going to struggle, just bear that one in mind. However, Nottingham Forest have been so impressive over the last few weeks. They now have the most clean sheets in the Premier League out of any of the sides. The big concern for them could be that Murillo could be injured for this one, who would be a massive loss in their back line. But ultimately, I still expect Forest to get the result here. They're playing so well. I just think they're going to edge it. I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory to Nottingham Forest. And that'll be it for these Game Week 20 predictions. As I said, mid-season review will be coming out for you next week before the FA Cup predictions video. So make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on that video. As always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I'll see you very soon.